America, a nation founded on principles of liberty and equality, a nation built on the backs of enslaved Africans. This is the American paradox. It's a contradiction at the heart of the nation's story. It's a story of both hope and hypocrisy. The founding fathers, those men who penned the Declaration of Independence and framed the Constitution, are revered as heroes. They fought for freedom from British rule. Yet many of them were slave owners. They spoke of liberty while denying it to others. This paradox has shaped American history. It fueled debates, sparked rebellions, and ultimately led to the Civil War. The legacy of this contradiction continues to resonate today. It influences how we understand our past and grapple with the challenges of the present. This essay will explore the American paradox. It will examine the tension between the ideals of freedom and the reality of slavery. We will delve into the historical impact of this contradiction and consider its relevance in today's world. In 1776, the Continental Congress declared the independence of the 13 American colonies from Great Britain. Thomas Jefferson, a Virginia planter and slave owner, penned the document that would define a nation. The Declaration of Independence boldly proclaimed that all men are created equal. It asserted that all individuals possess certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Historical figure 1 as Thomas Jefferson. These words became a beacon of hope, not just for Americans, but for people around the world yearning for freedom. The Declaration articulated universal ideals. It spoke of inherent rights and the consent of the governed. It challenged the legitimacy of tyranny and oppression. Yet, even as these powerful words were being written, the institution of slavery thrived in the newly declared nation. Millions of Africans were enslaved in America, denied the very freedoms articulated in the Declaration. This stark contradiction between ideals and reality laid bare the hypocrisy at the heart of the American experiment. The institution of slavery was a brutal system of forced labor and racial oppression. Enslaved Africans were treated as property, denied their basic human rights, and subjected to unimaginable cruelty. Families were torn apart. Men, women, and children were bought and sold like commodities, and the lash was a constant threat. The existence of slavery in a nation founded on principles of liberty and equality was a moral abomination. It undermined the very foundations of the American experiment. How could a nation that claimed to champion freedom tolerate such a system of oppression within its borders? The contradiction between the ideals of freedom and the reality of slavery was not lost on those who suffered under its yoke. Abolitionists, both black and white, bravely spoke out against the evils of slavery. They pointed to the hypocrisy of a nation that proclaimed liberty while denying it to millions. The issue of slavery would continue to haunt the United States throughout the 19th century. It fueled political debates, sparked violent uprisings, and ultimately led to the nation's bloodiest conflict, the Civil War. The Southern states, economically and culturally dependent on enslaved labor, seceded from the Union in 1860. They formed the Confederate States of America, determined to preserve the institution of slavery. The Civil War erupted in 1861, pitting brother against brother in a brutal conflict that claimed the lives of over 600,000 Americans. The Civil War was a testament to the enduring legacy of the American paradox. It was a war fought over the meaning of freedom, the nature of equality, and the very soul of a nation. In the end, the Union prevailed, slavery was abolished, and the nation took a significant step towards fulfilling the promise of its founding ideals. Section 5. Echoes of the Paradox. From Reconstruction to Civil Rights. The abolition of slavery did not erase the legacy of racial injustice in America. The period of Reconstruction following the Civil War saw attempts to integrate formerly enslaved people into society. However, these efforts were met with fierce resistance from white Southerners. Jim Crow laws were enacted throughout the South, institutionalizing segregation and discrimination. African Americans were denied equal rights, subjected to violence and intimidation, and systematically excluded from economic and political power. The fight for racial equality continued throughout the 20th century. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, led by courageous individuals like Martin Luther King Jr., challenged segregation and demanded equal rights for all Americans. The legacy of the Founding Fathers remains a subject of intense debate today. Were they heroes who laid the groundwork for a more perfect union, or were they hypocrites who betrayed the ideals they espoused? We must judge the Founding Fathers by the standards of their time, not ours. Slavery was a deeply entrenched institution, and challenging it openly would have been unthinkable. The founders made compromises to forge a union, and their words planted the seeds for the eventual abolition of slavery. We owe them a debt of gratitude for their vision and their courage. The Founding Fathers, for all their talk of liberty and equality, built a nation on the backs of enslaved Africans. They penned lofty ideals while denying those ideals to millions. Their hypocrisy is a stain on their legacy, a reminder that freedom is often won through struggle, not bestowed by those in power. How should we reconcile the Founding Fathers' embrace of freedom with their tolerance of slavery? Can we admire their achievements while condemning their complicity in a system of oppression? These are questions that continue to challenge us today. It is essential to engage with history honestly, acknowledging both the triumphs and the failures of the past. We must recognize the complexities of the Founding Fathers' legacy, appreciating their contributions while confronting their contradictions. By grappling with the past, we gain a deeper understanding of the present. The echoes of the American paradox can still be heard today in the ongoing struggle for racial justice and equality. The United States has made significant progress in addressing racial inequality. However, the legacy of slavery and segregation continues to cast a long shadow on American society. Racial disparities persist in areas such as education, healthcare, criminal justice, and economic opportunity. The Black Lives Matter movement has brought renewed attention to issues of police brutality and racial profiling. It has sparked a national conversation about race and racism in America. Confronting the American paradox requires an honest reckoning with the nation's past and a commitment to building a more just and equitable future. The American paradox is not just a historical artifact. It is a living challenge that demands our attention and action. We must continue to strive towards a society where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race or ethnicity. Here are some questions to consider. How can we reconcile the ideals of the Founding Fathers with the reality of their actions? What are the lasting impacts of slavery and segregation on American society today? How can we work towards a more just and equitable future? for all Americans. The journey towards fulfilling the promise of America's founding ideals is ongoing. By acknowledging the complexities of the past and working together to address the challenges of the present, we can create a future where liberty and justice are truly available to all. The American paradox reminds us that freedom is not a gift, but a constant struggle. It is a struggle that each generation must engage in to ensure that the ideals of equality and justice prevail. Please subscribe to my channel and click the like button to support more content like this.